there. My name is Quentin Russell, and I am the engagement specialist here at Doc365. And today I'm happy to present our latest webinar. Today we're going to be talking about the benefits of contract lifecycle management on Office 365. So before we go ahead and get started, I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are at Doc365. So we have over 19 years of experience working with Microsoft solutions to build powerful productivity tools. We specialize in building contract management solutions on top of our clients' Office 365 environments. We are a Microsoft Gold certified partner who, with a wide range of experience working to help organizations build out and get the most out of their existing Office 365 and SharePoint Online subscription. If you're interested in taking a closer look at our contract management system, which we will be taking a brief look at today, feel free to sign up for a free demo on our website. Just go to mydoc365.com. Click the free demo button in the top right corner. You'll be able to schedule about 30 to 45 minutes with one of our representatives who will be able to go over the solution with you and help you understand whether it would be a good fit for your organization. That said, let's take a look at what we're going to be talking about today. So today during the webinar, we're going to take a look at how contract lifecycle management gets complicated. We're going to talk about some of the features within Office 365 that help with contract management. After that, we'll go into a live demo environment where we'll take a look at how Office 365 can help you with your contract management needs. And then after that, we'll do a question and answer session where we'll take questions from the audience and see if there's anything that we might be able to help them answer. If there's anything I can't fully respond to during this time, I will make sure to do the research and send a full explanation alongside the demo recording, which I will send out later today. So that said, let's jump right into it. So first of all, how contract management gets complicated. So in our conversations with our clients, which we have, I think over 200 at this point, one of the big things that we've noticed is that there are a couple centralizing issues that tend to pop up a lot. And we've taken those and we've identified the four biggest ones that seem to have the most impact on the organizations that we're working with. So the first of these is having a lack of centralized contract storage. So this is a situation where contracts are potentially spread out on different shared drives, personal computers, or other sorts of document storage where it can be difficult to find what you're looking for. Another one, and this is a really big one, is manual processes. So this is a situation where every aspect of the contract management process is being handled manually, from forwarding contracts over email, tracking bits of metadata using Excel spreadsheets, that sort of thing. Another big thing that we've seen is contracts having a lack of visibility. So basically important dates in the contract's lifecycle not being tracked, expirations being missed, that sort of thing. And then process breakdowns. So more than just with the manual processes, but people not knowing what they're supposed to be doing, where contracts need to go, that sort of thing. So kind of going on a more deep dive on this, especially with like a lack of centralized storage, this is consistently one of the biggest issues that people come to us with. They don't have a central location where they're storing their contracts. Like I said previously, they're being stored on individual share drives, personal computers, their OneDrives, that sort of thing. Or maybe they're just completely lost. This just makes it really difficult to keep a handle on your contract processes, because if you don't know where all your contracts are, they're not accessible, it makes it very difficult to track important deliverables within a contract. It'll make it difficult to reference whether or not you're getting everything that you've purchased from a vendor, making sure that you're not missing out on any obligations that you potentially need to deliver to the other party, important dates in the contract's life cycle. There are just so many things that you're missing out on if you don't have everything in one place. It can also make it super difficult for compliance purposes if you need to perform an audit of your contracts and everything. Because if, once a year you're having to go through and perform a week's long audit and inventory of all of your contracts, that's a lot of time wasted that could have been spent working on actual profitable aspects of your business, rather than actually making sure that they're all in one place and keeping them there over time, which a lot of times can be difficult, especially if your organization doesn't have a history of setting up that centralized repository. Like, one thing we've definitely seen, and this is something that's going to apply to a lot of the different issues, these common issues that we're going to be talking about today, is that a lot of them are a result of what your organization was doing as you were growing. There were certain processes and ways of operating that worked when you were a smaller organization. Maybe you only had 5 to 10 contracts that you were working with. So it was fine for one person to keep them on their share drive. And then as things kind of expanded, there wasn't a large enough volume of contracts that you needed to really formalize anything and get things centralized. But as you've grown, as you've become more successful, the issues have become exacerbated. This is one of those things where you don't know what you know or what you don't know until you need to know it. And so a lot of organizations don't think about the contract management side of things. They're more focused on the actual business side, what they're doing, the products they're offering, the services that they offer, that sort of thing. And so basically kind of helping to curb that planning ahead. It's not a moral failing that you didn't do this. It's just something that you didn't think about. And so it's something that you need to begin thinking about as your organization begins to grow and expand. And that definitely comes with making sure that all of your contracts are stored in one centralized location. From here, the next big issue that a lot of organizations come to us with is manual processes. And again, this is kind of coming back from that, this is how we've always done it. This is how we were doing it when we were a small organization. You're handling everything manually, whether that's from contract intake being done exclusively over email, approval processes having to be fired off manually, the execution of contracts having to print them out, sign them physically, and then scan them back in rather than using an e-signature solution. There are a lot of ways where a manual contract process can just slow things down, where even just generating the initial contract might take you somewhere from, an hour to 2 hours, even if you're using some form of a contract template. That initial time could be better spent actually reviewing the contract or making sure that it has all of the important clauses that you might need for that type of contract. And then that also goes to editing and redlining and everything, whether someone has to download the contract to their system, make those changes, and then resend it to someone over email, as opposed to collaborating on a document within the cloud, that sort of thing. There's just a lot of points where things are slower than they need to be. And if you're doing everything manually, and if you're doing everything this way, you also open up more doors for mistakes to pop in. Human error is probably the single largest cause of issues with different organizations' contract management processes. Because people make mistakes, it's bound to happen. And as your organization works more and more with different contracts and they begin to expand the amount that they're using year over year, there's going to be more contracts that people are working on. There's more points where they're going to have to handle things manually, which just increases the odds that mistakes are going to pop up, which, as you're working with these different contracts, you really can't afford to have those mistakes pop up. Because while you might be saving money by having things being done manually right now, as you begin to experience these problems and potentially run into situations where you are out of compliance with a contract and you're open up to, say, legal fees, different sorts of potential fines from regulatory bodies and everything like that, it might actually end up costing you more money to have to deal with things messing up and things breaking, as opposed to just paying the money to automate things in the first place. From here, another big issue that comes up is a lack of visibility. And this kind of touches on the centralized repository, but this is also more than just that. Because even if you have a centralized repository, if you're not pulling important dates and clauses out of a contract and tracking them to make sure that they're being completed, you're going to have a lot of issues. You need to be tracking things like obligations, whether or not you've delivered on them, whether or not you've collected on them, expiration dates, renewals, review periods, that sort of thing. Failing to track these can lead to, breaking compliance, lapsed contracts, unwanted renewals, that sort of thing. This is especially something you need to think about in the software and tech space, specifically if you're licensing a program or a system from someone. For instance, a very common example is the Adobe suite of products. Adobe is a very powerful platform, really great for video editing, photo editing, that sort of thing, but it can be rather expensive. And they have a very restrictive contract period. You are basically locked into a year-long contract. If you want to break the contract, you have to pay out the remainder of that contract. And if you do want to cancel, they only provide you a 2 to 3 day period, or at least this is with the consumer version. There's only a 2 to 3 day period where you can cancel for the next year without having to pay out the rest of that period. And if you miss that time, you miss that window, then you are out of luck. And a lot of contracts tend to operate like that. Not many are as draconic as that, like draconian as that, but it can definitely be an issue and something that you need to keep on the lookout for. Say, for instance, you do license a product that you don't find yourself using, or you don't find it to be very effective. If you're not tracking that expiration period, if you're not tracking that time when you are able to cancel without paying any extra fees, you run into a situation where you might end up spending more money in the long term. Or if you miss a renewal period on a contract, where, say, for instance, you might have negotiated a better rate for yourself, but if that contract expires, you go back to that organization saying, hey, can we re-up our services? They'll say to you, sure, but you're going to pay the regular rate. You missed out on that renewal period. And that can, again, end up costing your company money in the long term. So it's important to be tracking these dates and making sure that you're keeping an eye on all this information and that you're tracking it. And if you're not pulling this information out, putting reminders out, getting on the calendar, you're going to run into these issues. But the problem is, if you're working with more and more contracts, and if you haven't found a way to automate things, you run into a situation where all of these, you're taking all of this time, you potentially miss a date, and then one failure kind of just begins to cascade. One thing we've definitely noticed in stories from our different clients and everything is that contract management problems don't just pop up overnight. They kind of creep in slowly. Little mistakes and errors, here don't really end up causing problems until about 6 months down the line. And then it's kind of this cascading series of failures where, as you're trying to put out a fire over here, you are forced to neglect something over here, which then pops up here over time, and things just slowly get out of control until 2 years in, you're looking at everything and thinking, how the heck did everything go wrong? Which takes us to our next point, which is just process breakdowns. Your organization's success is contingent on how well you were able to manage your contracts. So how well you build out your processes, how well you make sure that everything is correct, making sure that everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then as things break down, it causes confusion for everyone involved. People need to know where contracts need to go for approval. They need to go where contracts are, when contracts need to be sent out. the right people need to have access to contracts while also excluding people who potentially don't need to have access to those particular contracts. Say, for instance, they access, or you have a central repository, they access it, but they're able to see all contracts for the system, which can be confusing for them. All of these are just major issues that build up over time, like I said. And it's important to get things ironed out, built in, and encoded as much as possible through the use of things like automation, through the use of things like a contract management solution, things like that, where it's difficult to break the process because the system is handling a lot of that for you. Which kind of takes me on to my next point, which is Office 365 features that help with contract management. So if you were just using Office 365 base for contract management and you haven't made any overall changes to it, you don't plan on doing much in the way of SharePoint development, these are just some things that can definitely help you with that process. So you can set up different alerts and notifications in your document libraries and your lists and everything so that people can be notified when documents are added or shared. So this is something that you can use, say, for like a contract intake process, where instead of people emailing your legal team, they go to a specific document library, upload the contract that they need, that like upload a request or something. So whether it's processing a third-party contract or something like that, and then that legal team will get notified so that they can go in and see them all there. So rather than it being stuck in someone's inbox or something like that, you know where it's going to be every time. Document collaboration also helps. So people being able to work in the same document that is stored in the cloud at the same time. So they're able to see all the red lines, edits, and everything like that in real time with version history and everything like that, so that you can always revert back if someone makes a mistake. This is great because you don't have to download a new version to your computer every time, send it out. There's only one version of the document floating around. You don't have to worry about people storing it on their computers. And then say, for instance, there's a security breach or something like that, and they get access to that computer and they get access to all those contracts stored on there, as opposed to them being stored on the cloud and safe behind, two-factor authentication, that sort of thing. Which kind of gets on to the next point, which is secure storage. Like the Office 365 security features make it super easy to control who has access to the contracts. So using Office 365 and SharePoint Online user groups for permissions, access, only people within your organization will be able to access them. You can make it so that you can't print these documents. You can make it so that they can't be shared outside your organization. There's just a lot of fine-toothed control that you can exert over your documents and contracts within SharePoint Online. And then finally, a user-friendly interface. So Office 365 and SharePoint are super easy to use and understand with minimal training. I don't know about you, but for pretty much my entire life, I've been using Office 365. Well, not Office 365, but Microsoft products. And so there's kind of this universal experience with Microsoft. So Word, Excel, which also extends to Office 365, SharePoint, and how to navigate that, find things, use the search functionality. So you don't have to train people as much in the processes because a lot of it is going to be more intuitive. Now, one thing that is a lot more advanced than anything we've talked about, but this is something to keep your eye on for the future, is Microsoft has recently unveiled their Azure Cognitive Services. So what this does is this allows organizations to leverage artificial intelligence for contract management. Basically, this AI can be trained to extract important metadata from contracts, identify clauses within the contract, all of which help eliminate some of the more manual parts of the review process. And over time, as you get better and more experienced with training cognitive services, you can actually have it do more and more for your organization without having to spend exorbitant amounts of money. Another thing about this is that unlike with a lot of third-party AI services where you might potentially have to send your contract out to another organization, thereby leaving your Office 365 tenant, Microsoft Cognitive Services is all on your tenant. So it's not leaving the servers, it's not leaving anything. So for companies outside the United States, particularly in the EU, where there are more strict data policies, Cognitive services will definitely help keep things safe and secure, and you won't have to have as much of a headache when it comes to document access and security. That said, let's take a look at how you can actually use Office 365 for contract management. So there are a lot of ways that you can use Office 365 for contract management, but probably the best way is to reach out to a third-party partner to help you customize your environment. The average SharePoint developer's salary is somewhere between $50,000 to $60,000 a year for someone who's going to single-handedly build something out like this, where it has the full functionality, custom workflows, automation, that sort of thing. But if you reach out to a third-party organization, it'll probably cost you maybe a third of that. All while being able to have it be done faster rather than something that takes anywhere from 6 to 9 months. For instance, we're able to deploy our contract management system to our clients within about 4 to 6 weeks. And while that is on the faster side, generally you can have it done within about 2 to 3 months. And you're not only just getting access to what they're working on, but you're getting access to their expertise and their experience. For instance, we work with, I think, over 200 clients at this point, and we've helped them build out and customize their metadata, workflows, their templates and everything. So we have insight into what works, what doesn't work. So you have a head start over just doing it yourself and kind of doing things through trial and error. In fact, let's actually jump into a live demo version of our contract management system so that we can take a look at what it does, the benefits of it, that sort of thing. So what you're seeing here is the dashboard for our contract management system. Just a little bit about the system before continuing on. Everything is built out on top of your Office 365 environment. So we don't save, share, copy, do anything with your data. You have full control over it. It lives on your tenant, which means you have full control over who has access to it, how things are stored. So there's no security concerns, and you have full access to the Microsoft security features such as multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, that sort of thing. Now, when it comes to the dashboard itself, it's designed to give a broad overview of what you're working on with your various contracts. So for instance, it's going to show you things like the number of contracts you have in the system, the vendors you're working with, your customers, any tasks that might have been assigned out to you. And one of the big things that our clients love is we actually have a expiring contracts tab and also a tab that shows any contracts that might need attention within the next 30 days. So what these will do is they'll actually show you when that contract is going to expire. It's also going to send automated notifications to contract owners when a contract is going to expire. So for instance, AFG Investment Trust is going to expire on March 1st. So we know that we need to go review that, make sure that everything is okay with that, whether we're okay with that expiring or what steps we need to take to potentially renew it. So you have more insight into what's going on, everything's more visible, and you don't have to worry about manually tracking these things. In fact, we have a couple other more expansive dashboards that go into this information, and it's based on the metadata you're storing about your contracts. So that way you don't have to worry about pulling reports every time. You can just come to these dashboards and see this information. So for instance, you want to see, say, like the top 5 vendors by contract amount. We have a scorecard functionality that allows you to rate your vendors. So you can come here and see which vendors are rated highest based on their scorecard for what type of service they're offering. It's just information like this that offers more visibility into what's going on and gives you more insight so that you can make better informed decisions when it comes to, say, like your vendors or your customer contracts. Now, with our system, we also have a robust contract intake / contract request process. So in order to show that off, I'm going to jump over to a average user's perspective. And so for this instance, what we're going to do is we're going to show off, say, a salesperson coming in and requesting the creation of a non-disclosure agreement for a vendor that they're working with or like a customer they're working with. So one thing you'll notice when I log into the user's account is that the information that's displayed on the dashboard is different. That's because you have the ability to segment users based off of things like what user group they're a part of, and users only have access to contracts, vendors, requests that they have been given access to. So you don't have to worry about people accessing information that they're not supposed to have. Now, when it comes to actually submitting the request, what I will do is I will come here and I will click that I want to add a new request to the system. So what this is going to do is it's going to take me to a screen where I can choose from a series of different contract request templates. So this does two things. The first thing it does is it eliminates the need to do the request process over email. You're doing it all through the system. It lives here, so you can very easily access that information, any communication, and anything that they might need. The other thing is that this also makes it so you don't have to use one standard contract request process and then have whoever, like say your legal team who's reviewing these requests having to go back and forth with the requester. Instead, you're able to enforce a data standard so that when people go to submit this request, they know exactly what information they need to submit so that when they do submit it, everything is correct and they have everything they need, because you can make different fields requirements. So before they can even move forward, they have to have this information. So this can help save time, and it also makes sure that people aren't just submitting incomplete requests. So what will happen now is it's going to create the request in the system. Let me just refresh this real quick and try this again. Yeah, so. Another thing as part of this process as well is you can use this for more than just contract generation. Say you're processing a third-party contract. One thing that you can do is you can just upload the document here as part of the request so that your legal team is able to review the document without having to pull it up over email or something like that. So once that request has been submitted, your legal team will be able to come here in the system and they'll be able to review the request. It seems that there is currently an issue going on. That's okay. Basically, they'd be able to review the request, see all the metadata, and then from there, they'd be able to move on to the contract creation process. So the contract creation process is fairly simple, and it works pretty much the same way as with the contract request process. So you're able to choose from a series of different metadata templates to fill out these forms, and then what you can do is you can map different document templates to them. So it'll take the information that people fill out in these forms and populate them into a document template. So you don't have to worry about manually building out your contracts yourself. And instead you can use the system to help you with that. And you can build out any amount of custom metadata. So you can do things like add department, type of contract. You can build out and customize any amount of metadata to really match your needs, what you're doing, and how your processes are meant to function. So to show you how this works, I'm going to go through and I'm going to build a new document. So we're going to fill this out. We're going to use First Bergen Bancorp. We have party address, contact. So then what we're going to do is once we've got this filled out, we'll go and save this. And what this is now going to do is it's going to build out a whole listing under the contract tab. And the contract tab is where all of your contracts are stored. So they're all stored in one central location. So you don't have to worry about them being saved to someone's computer or something like that. Additionally, since all contracts are generated using the system, you don't have to worry about people accessing, different document templates from a shared drive or something like that, and running into a situation where someone might download the template, save it to their computer, and then potentially ignore any updated versions that might be created in the future. Instead, they're all here in the system. Since it's all in the system, you're always using the latest version. So as you can see right here, the information that I filled out as part of this form has been mapped here into the contract. So things like the effective date, the party names, expiration dates, that sort of thing. So from here, you're just ready to move on to the rest of the contract management process. So editing the contract, that sort of thing. Another thing that we've done, so that was like generating the contract, but say, for instance, you're importing a contract from a third-party organization or something like that. So let's go through and say that we're using vendor and customer paper. So we've recently added Microsoft Cognitive Services to our contract management system. And so you have access to full AI functionality. So to show you how that works, what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload a sample contract. And rather than begin to fill out this information, I'm going to say that I want to extract information from the contract. So as you can see, it's going to pull things like the party name. It's going to pull party address. It's going to pull information like when it's going to be effective, when it's going to expire. And then it's beginning to map that information here into these different fields. So I don't have to fill them out. I can still review the contract to make sure that everything's correct. Say, for instance, like the party address might be different or something like that. But for the most part, it's going to help a lot with making sure that you have everything you need for this contract. And then once you've uploaded it, it's going to upload the document as well as building out a listing, similarly as if you had generated the contract using one of your internal templates on your paper. Another thing that it's also going to do is it's going to extract the clauses from that contract. So any clauses that might exist within there. And if you actually come here under the reports function, the AI will actually list out the different clauses within it, and then it'll allow you to track those here under the clause report. So say, for instance, you want to see all termination clauses that exist in the contract management system, or say you want to find all of the clauses within a specific contract, you're able to do so using this report because the AI has went in there, extracted those clauses from the document and made it so that you're able to see all of them. So jumping back into the contract, we're just gonna pull it up right here. So let's say we want to go find the latest contract. So basically what you're able to do is from here, you're able to use the full Word editing and management capabilities within Microsoft Word. So people aren't having to learn how to use a whole new word processor when it comes to our contract management system. So it's going to be a lot more user-friendly, a lot easier to get into. But the other thing is that we've created a Microsoft Word add-in where, first of all, let me turn on track changes. This will allow you to build out a clause library using your most used clauses. And then you can actually just drop them straight into a contract. So say, for instance, I just want to use the roles and responsibilities clause. I can drop that straight into the contract and it'll format everything for me. And all I have to do is just check it over to make sure that everything's correct and that the proper names are being used. So it's super easy and it helps really automate a lot of this process so that you can speed things up and you aren't having to spend as much time on the actual management of your various clauses and everything like that. From here, we also have a workflow automation process. So this allows you to send the contract to various people internally to make sure that the contract is going to the right place for approvals. So you're able to build out different workflow templates with different stages of where they need to go. So for instance, like we have this vendor contract approval workflow. And what it's going to do is it's going to build out the different stages of where the contract needs to go, as well as how many days each stage is due in, that sort of thing. And then once you've started that workflow, the system's going to take over. It's going to update the status of the contract. And then it's going to send a notification to this approver, letting them know that they need to approve the contract. Once they've gone in and done that, the system is again going to take over. It's going to send a notification to the next person in line. So your users don't have to remember where things need to go. They don't need to worry about processes getting interrupted because they're going to be enforced by the system so there's less of a chance of things breaking. Our system also offers full activity tracking. So users can leave notes for one another, and they can tag each other through here. They can build out custom and one-time and even recurring notifications where, say, they need to send something to accounts payable. Because this is connected to your Active Directory, it's going to pull from there, so you can assign tasks out to anyone in the organization. So like, again, you need to send something to accounts payable every month, it's going to send that notification out to them. You can also build out custom tasks for users and assign them out. And we also offer obligation tracking. So just any time in the contract's lifecycle where you might need to deliver or collect something, whether that's a background check, COVID policies, milestones, any insurance information, all of that is able to be handled here, assigned out to someone so that it can be tracked. And then from there, you're able to make sure that you're following up on these obligations. Our system also offers we have full DocuSign, Adobe Sign, and Certify integration. So what you would just do is you want to say you want to send that document out for e-signature. You're able to choose who you send it to, and then from there, it's going to take you to DocuSign, where you're able to set up the different signature fields and everything. And then once you've sent it out and the other party signed it, it'll actually file a fully signed and executed copy back into the contract management system without you having to manually upload that. So yeah, that's a kind of broad overview of just some of the more important aspects of our contract management system. There's a lot that I haven't shown off today. For instance, we have an external collaboration function that allows you to share the contract with people without them needing to have an Office 365 account or even access to your specific Office 365 environment. We have full vendor management capabilities. So being able to collect insurance information, licensing information, their important details, and you can even invite them into update their own profile, fill out questionnaires, all without you having to manually manage that. We have full reporting processes, an expansive array of customization where you can modify different workflow templates, contract templates, the metadata that you're tracking about your contracts. You can set up any number of custom notifications. We have a whole array of automation functions, including the ability to mass update various properties in the system. There's just a lot that we weren't able to take a look at today, and I would love to take you on a tour of during a free demo of the system. This demo would be a quick 30 to 45-minute session, either with me or someone else within our organization. And what it would be is we would take you on a more custom tour rather than this just kind of broad overview. So if that's something you're interested in doing, feel free to head to our website, sign up for a free demo, or you can reach out to us over email. We'd love to hear from you and show you everything that Doc Contract Management is capable of doing for you. That said, let's jump back into the presentation. So that's pretty much everything. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. In the meantime, I think here are the different ways that you can contact our organization. So you can reach us at our phone number at 904-309-9970, or you can email us at info@mydoc365.com. If you enjoy our content and you want to continue to engage with it, you can also follow us on LinkedIn at Doc365. It seems that there aren't any questions on the docket, so I think that's going to be everything for today. Thank you everyone for coming out, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Again, if you want to sign up for a free demo, just head on over to our website, click the free demo button, submit your details, or you can reach out to us and we'll make sure to schedule some time with you. So again, this has been Quentin Russell with Doc365. Thank you all very much, and I wish you all a great rest of your day.